All right, so you want to know about living with other people?
Yeah, flatmate life.
We're going deep on this one with a
Deep
a
dive.
deep dive into Flatmate Chronicles. This podcast,
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
they don't hold back on what it's like.
Like actually sharing your space with someone?
Not just like splitting the rent, but like
All the things no one tells you.
exactly, like all those like unspoken rules and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like what happens when your lifestyles clash and
Yeah.
all of that.
Okay, well, they started off the podcast talking about
Cleanliness.
it's not even just about like being tidy or whatever.
Yeah, it's like everyone's idea of clean is so different.
Totally. And they had this story
I love their stories.
about this one flatmate who thought like,
Air freshener.
yeah, like spraying air freshener was cleaning.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Right, like that's the deep clean.
Wow. It makes you realize how important it is to like,
Talk about it.
yeah, like actually talk about what clean means.
Before you move in even. Yeah, you have to. Or you end up with the air freshener situation.
So it's not even just about saying what you like and don't like, but
Understanding each other.
so less about like,
Laying down the law.
and more about
Euchemize.
finding some kind of,
Common ground.
yeah. And maybe you learn something too.
Oh, totally. Like maybe one of you is allergic to something or,
Or like has a system.
yeah, a weird cleaning system that actually makes sense.
And you'd never know unless you talk about it.
Exactly. It's all about respect, you know?
Respecting the differences.
Yeah.
Okay, in speaking of things that need to be discussed,
Shared bathrooms.
Flatmate Chronicles.
Yeah.
Talked about those notes.
The passive-aggressive note.
About the toilet paper.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Like we've all been there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But it's more than just toilet paper.
It's like everything.
Yeah, shower schedules, who cleans what.
Even like the fan.
Oh, the fan.
On or off.
It's a big deal.
It's the little things.
Yeah, you get so used to your own habits.
You forget you're sharing the space,
with another human who might do things differently.
right? They mentioned a study about this.
Oh, yeah, about shared spaces.
It's like some psychology thing about
territoriality.
even if it's just the bathroom sink.
Our caveman brains.
It's like we're fighting over territory.
Even if it's just a sink.
So we get why those little things
Become big things.
if you don't deal with them.
Yeah, it's not about the toilet paper.
It's about feeling respected.
Yeah, in your own home.
Okay, let's talk about something else everyone loves.
Noise.
They had this amazing story about
Oh, yeah, I remember.
a 3 a.m. Bohemian Rhapsody karaoke session.
Oh, God, I would die.
Hilarious, but also,
I would die, dude.
like, how do you even deal with that?
And it's so subjective, you know?
Yeah, like one person's reasonable vacuuming time is another person's
Peaceful morning.
ruined.
And noise-canceling headphones only go so far.
It's like a temporary fix.
You're not solving the problem.
So what do you do?
I like the idea of a
What?
flatmate noise agreement.
Like a contract?
Not so formal.
But you like
Sit down and make some rules.
about quiet hours.
Certain activities allowed in certain rooms.
So everyone knows what to expect.
It prevents those misunderstandings.
That's actually a really good idea.
Right.
Okay, and next up,
The big one.
food.
The disappearing food.
They had this whole debate about,
Borrowing versus stealing.
especially when it comes to pizza.
Oh, the last slice of pizza?
That's a classic.
It's never coming back.
It's gone.
And it's interesting why we get so,
Like possessive.
yeah, it's just food, but it feels personal.
Yeah, and when someone takes it without asking,
It feels like a violation.
you're like, hey, that was mine.
Right.
So how do you avoid those conflicts?
Well, they suggested designating space.
in the fridge.
Yeah, like your own shelf.
It sounds kind of,
Kindergarten-ish.
but it works.
Everyone has their own space, their own food,
Less drama.
less trauma.
So it's about boundaries.
Yeah, and respecting each other's stuff.
Which brings us to
The unspoken rules.
of flatmate life
All those unwritten expectations.
that no one talked about.
Yeah, like guests and noise.
Or how you communicate.
Heads up about parties.
Not taking over the living room,
Yeah.
borrowing things and actually returning them.
In one piece.
Basic stuff. But
You'd be surprised.
they even had this segment
The horror stories.
from listeners.
Oh, yeah, I love those.
Some were funny, some were just
Bizarre.
like the one about the guy who kept his sandwiches
On top of the fridge.
because he thought the fridge made bread cold.
I mean, I get it.
On top of the fridge.
Johan,
It's like everyone's got their quirks.
yeah, what's normal for one person?
It's weird for another.
Exactly.
But then there was this one.
oh, this one was bad.
This listener had a flatmate with a pet,
Tarantula
and it got out,
escaped.
and they didn't tell anyone.
Like what?
It's beyond a quirk at that point.
It's a safety hazard.
Makes you wonder what else they weren't saying.
Seriously. It's about trust.
And being considerate,
You gotta communicate.
even when it's awkward.
Because that's how you build trust.
So we've talked about
Cleanliness, noise, food.
unspoken rules.
The basics.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
But Flatmate Chronicles actually says all these challenges,
They can be good for you.
life lessons and stuff.
We'll get into that after the break.
Stay with us. So we just talked about all the things that can go wrong.
Yeah, all the potential for disaster.
But Flatmate Chronicles isn't just complaining about flatmates.
No, they actually said all this stuff.
All the drama,
It can teach you something.
valuable life lessons,
So new.
right? It's easy to focus on the bad stuff.
Yeah, but think about the skills you learn.
Like what?
Communication, compromise,
Yeah.
conflict resolution.
That's true.
And those are important for any relationship.
Not just with flatmates.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like a crash course in adulting.
With a side of dirty dishes and weird music.
Exactly. You learn to live with other people.
Who different from you?
With their own quirks and habits. It prepares you for the real world.
Yeah, for sure. But it's also about,
Empathy.
like, putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
Especially when you don't agree with them.
It makes you more understanding
Of other people.
of why they do the things they do.
Exactly. You realize there's not always a right way.
Just different ways.
And that's a valuable lesson.
Okay, but even with the best intentions.
Conflicts happen.
So what do you do when that happens?
They said the best thing is to,
Talk about it.
yes, address the issue head on.
Don't avoid it.
It's tempting to just ignore it,
Especially when you live with the person.
but it just builds resentment.
So those awkward conversations,
They're actually better in the long run.
get it over with.
And they suggested using I statements.
Instead of, like, blaming the other person,
Yeah, so instead of saying, you always leave your dishes in the sink,
which is tempting.
you could say, I feel frustrated when the sink is full of dishes because it makes me feel like I'm the only one who cares about a clean kitchen.
That's a good one.
It's about your feelings.
Not attacking the other person.
Right. And it's more likely to lead to a good conversation.
A productive conversation.
They even suggested having regular,
Like meetings
flatmate meetings.
to check in with each other.
Air out any grievances
Like a board meeting
for your apartment
prevents those small things.
from becoming big things.
Okay, so communication is key.
Yeah, and setting boundaries.
But what about if you're just starting out?
Looking for a flatmate.
How do you choose the right one?
They had a whole episode about this.
Really?
It's not just about finding someone you like.
It's about compatibility, like dating.
Yeah, but for living situations.
You have to have those awkward conversations.
About lifestyles,
It's-
schedules, expectations.
That's the tough questions.
About money guests, pet peeves.
It's better to know up front,
Than to find out later they're a secret DJ.
or have a tarantula collection.
Right. You want someone whose habits,
Match yours.
at least a little bit.
Okay, so you found your flatmate soulmate.
What's next?
Time for more communication.
They said you should make a
Like
flatmate agreement,
a contract.
but less formal.
More friendly.
Write down the important stuff.
Cleaning responsibilities.
Guest policies.
Expenses.
It prevents misunderstandings later.
Okay, so choose your flatmates wisely.
Set those boundaries.
Communicate
Also the keys.
to a successful flat sharing experience.
Or at least survivable.
And remember,
Humor helps.
Flatmate Chronicles said to laugh at the absurdity of it all.
Find the joy in the chaos.
Because even the worst situations,
Can be funny stories later. It's like a bonding experience.
I'm feeling more optimistic about flat sharing now.
Me too.
But before we wrap up,
Yes.
what's the biggest takeaway from Flatmate Chronicles?
I think it's that flat sharing is more than just living with someone.
It's like a social experiment.
A crash course in relationships.
It reminds us that we need each other.
Even in our individualistic world,
That's deep.
it's like a microcosm of society.
In your apartment.
We learn to compromise, communicate,
And laugh at the craziness.
and maybe even make some friends along the way.
Okay, well, on that note,
Yes.
we're going to wrap up our deep dive into Flatmate Chronicles. Thanks for listening. So, we've been talking about all this stuff about flatmate life. And I've been thinking about how Flatmate Chronicles makes it,
Makes it funny.
yeah, like they don't shy away from the hard
It's
parts,
the reality of it.
but they also remind you that it's not all bad.
You learn a lot.
Yeah, and it's funny. And I think that's why people like it.
Relatable.
Yeah, like we've all had those moments where you're like, is this normal?
Is my flatmate crazy or am I crazy?
Exactly. And it's good to know you're not alone.
It's not just you.
But they also give you advice.
Not just complaining.
Actual solutions.
We're communicating better.
Setting boundaries.
They even talked about conflict resolution styles.
Oh, yeah. Remember?
Like, are you an avoider or a confrontational person?
I'm totally an avoider.
Me too. It's good to know, though.
Yeah. Once you know yourself,
You can change things.
communicate better.
And that's helpful for any relationship.
Not just with flatmates.
Exactly.
But you know what else I liked?
What's that?
That even the worst flatmate stories,
They become funny later.
once you survived it,
You can laugh about it.
it's like a bonding experience.
Shared trauma.
But in a good way.
Exactly. You get through it together.
It's like a badge of honor.
We survive.
So what are you taking away from all this?
I've had Flatmate Chronicles.
What resonated with you?
Maybe you're already living with someone.
And this just confirmed all your suspicions.
Or maybe you're thinking about it.
And now you're prepared.
For the reality of it.
Either way, we hope you learned something.
About flatmate life.
And remember, it's all about balance
Boundaries, communication.
and being open to the unexpected.
And maybe getting a good lock for your fridge.
Always protect your snacks.
That's a good rule for life.
Okay, that's it for our deep dive into Flatmate Chronicles.
Thanks for listening.
And may your flatmates be respectful, your living space harmonious, and your leftovers always safe.